Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. What I'm about to share with you may sound a bit hypocritical, but hear me out, and let's explore! We are very sensitive to the gold and silver that we have in our possession. One thing I've learned in this community is that if you don't hold it, you don't own it. And this is where hypocrisy comes into play to a degree, because yes, I am engaging in counterparty risk when I store some of my silver, and a lot of silver and gold, outside of my present location. There is counterparty risk there, but it's a risk I'm willing to take. And that's just it. There's risk in everything we do. But the thing is we need to mitigate that risk as much as possible. Part of the reason why I do store in multiple locations is to mitigate risk. But by and large, not everybody has that capability or that luxury. But when we buy gold and silver, not only do we have to worry about storage issues with having a lot of it in hand, but there may be some more valuable pieces in our collection that we want to be able to set aside, because there's a lot of different kinds of gold and silver products out there. Some are worth a little bit more than others, especially if it's a numismatic collection. And if you are a pure stacker, most of the purists out there that just stack for weight, well, they do it long enough, they're going to become collectors in one form or another, even if they're collecting some better bullion pieces. Collectors nonetheless, they shall be. And there's some pieces that you may want to separate out and store in different locations, or maybe even at the bank at a safe deposit box, or at a private storage facility. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video, because gold and silver is valuable, and you want to make sure that it stays heavily guarded. And many people think that if you store it in a bank at a safe deposit box, that it is safe. And there are some truths to that to some degree. But there's also a lot of fine print, and maybe even not so fine print, that if you read it, you realize, you know what, I don't know if it's really worth paying the money to have things stored at a given location. What are the risks involved? Well, typically, they sign away any liability to anything getting stolen or misplaced at those storage facilities. Yes, you can vault your gold and silver, and some people do that, and they feel relatively safe doing that because it's in a facility that's guarded and the like. The biggest threat is theft. And one thing that I have done, and I'm sure many else in the community too, is you spend a lot of time, money, and resources on security. Because even if you just talk about precious metals, on a YouTube channel, whatever, or what have you, you got to make sure you are safe. Have contingency plans in place for when you are here or not home or not home. That's security, surveillance, weaponry, traps even. There's a lot of different things you can put into place for those kind of situations. Or if you have the ability to store your silver and gold off-site and at a trusted location like I do from friends and family that have even better security than you have, hey, it might be worth doing. But some people believe in private security situations. And probably the least likely threat that they may find is coming from their own government. And even though some people believe that store some of these items and precious metals in a facility like that, they're doing it to protect themselves from the government. They don't expect the government to seize it. And that's exactly what happened in a case here in Los Angeles. And this is something that actually it was in Beverly Hills. And this is a U.S. private vault. And this is a story that was shared with me by Rocky Superstar. When, the government comes in and they have a warrant or some sort of probable cause to search, well, it's one thing. But when they mislead the judge, that becomes a bigger matter. And it's about trust in government. And we've already seen the FBI as an institution has become tainted over the past years. Actually, for quite some time, eight or so years, there's been some calls into question about the objectivity of the FBI from the top level of the organizational structure of the organization, not necessarily the agents, but against those that are higher up in the organization. So it's really disheartening to see stories like this as shared with me, Rocky Superstar. But we're going to look at this and see what this is about, as they have seized $86 million in cash and other things as well, out of sort of a misled provocation, or misled this judge about the threat, I guess, or what have you. So let's take a look at this piece. If you enjoy stories like this, I hope you will consider subscribing to the channel, pressing that like button, and sharing with other social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and so on. The privacy invasion was vast when FBI agents drilled and pried their way into 1,400 safe deposit boxes in the U.S. private vault store in Beverly Hills. And keep in mind, I did a story about this quite some time ago, but this is new information about the motivation and how they misled this judge. They rummaged through personal belongings of a jazz saxophone player, an interior designer, a retired doctor, a flooring contractor, 2 Century City lawyers, and hundreds of others. Agents took photos and videos of pay stubs, password lists, credit cards, prenuptial agreement, immigration and vaccination records, bank statements, heirlooms, and a will, court records show. In one box, agents found cremated human remains. 18 months later, newly unsealed court documents show that the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles got their warrant for that raid by misleading the judge who approved it. They omitted from their warrant request a central part of the FBI's plan: permanent confiscation of everything inside every box containing at least $5,000 in cash or goods, the senior FBI agent recently testified. The FBI's justification for the dragnet forfeiture was its presumption that hundreds of unknown box holders were all storing assets somehow tied to unknown crimes, court records show. So yes, indeed, and here is an image that shows the this raid. And I can't open the picture to get a larger view of it, but it was that the FBI says fortune seized in Beverly Hills raid was criminals' loot. But there's no proof of it. Where's the proof of it? It took 5 days for scores of agents to fill their evidence bags with the bounty. More than $86 million in cash and a bonanza of gold, silver, rare coins, gem-studded jewelry, and enough Rolex and Cartier watches just to stock a boutique. So look at that. There it is. Some people thought they were safe storing their gold, silver, rare coins, and jewelry and watches inside of this facility. The U.S. Attorney's Office has tried to block public disclosure of court papers that laid bare the government's deception, but a judge rejected its request to keep them under seal. The failure to disclose the confiscation plan and the warrant request came to light in FBI documents and depositions of agents in a class action lawsuit by box holders who say the raid violated their rights. I would say, look at that. Crazy. And, this is an FBI raid that you can see here where pictures were taken of what's happening here. In Mar-a-Lago, there were no photographs taken by independent agents or independent and attorneys for the Trump organization. They just went and raided everything. This is becoming a pattern. The court filings also show that federal agents defied restrictions that U.S. Magistrate Judge Steve Kim set in the warrant by searching through box holders' belongings for evidence of crimes. The government did not know what was in those boxes, who owned them, or what, if anything, those people had done. Robert Frommer, a lawyer who represented nearly 400 box holders in the class action case, wrote in court papers, "This is why the warrant application did not even attempt to argue there was probable cause to seize and forfeit box renters' property." Now, keep in mind, this is coming to us from the Los Angeles Times, which is really not friendly to stories like this, but really they should apply this same, questioning and this same same approach to what happened at Mar-a-Lago, which was, in my view, even worse. After a 2-year investigation that opened in 2019, leaders of the FBI's Los Angeles office believe U.S. private vaults was a magnet for criminals hiding illicit proceeds in their boxes. The business was charged with conspiracy to sell drugs and launder money. The FBI and attorney's office denied that they misled the judge or ignored his conditions, saying they had no obligation to tell him of the plan for indiscriminate confiscations on the blanket assumption that every customer was hiding crime-tainted assets. FBI spokeswoman Laura Emuller said the warrants were lawfully executed based on allegations of widespread criminal wrongdoing. That's lumping everybody into one basket, though. Where's the proof of that? It's insanity what's happened there. At no time was a magistrate misled as to the probable cause used to obtain the warrant, she said. U.S. private vaults has pleaded guilty to conspiracy to launder drug money, and the investigation is continuing, she said. The plaintiffs in this class action suit have asked U.S. District Judge Gary Klausner to declare the raid unconstitutional. If he grants the request, it could force the FBI to return millions of dollars to box holders whose assets it tried to confiscate. It could also spoil an unknown number of criminal investigations by blocking prosecutors from using any evidence or information acquired in the raid, including guns and drugs. Until the FBI shut it down, U.S. private vaults was an easy-to-miss store in the Olympic Boulevard Strip and the Supercuts hair salon and kosher vegan Thai restaurant. Around 2015, it began attracting police attention. Local detectives and federal agents spotted drug suspects walking in and out. FBI agent Lynn Zellhart, a former Sacramento attorney, first heard about it from a L.A. County Sheriff's deputy. Customers could rent boxes without identifying themselves, enter the store's vault with a biometric eye scan, the deputy told her. The Sheriff's Department suspected a customer was a criminal, but was having all kinds of problems getting into the box that they had a warrant for because of the nature of the business, Zellhart testified in a class action suit. By 2019, federal and local law enforcement had managed to search more than a dozen boxes and seize about $5 million from 5 drug dealers, a bookie, and a debit card thief. The FBI opened an investigation of the business itself. Zellhart, who specializes in money laundering, said she thought it should be shut down. She joined forces with counterparts in the Drug Enforcement Administration and the Postal Inspection Service. Through surveillance, informants, and undercover work, they surmised U.S. private vaults and a precious metal store next door were helping drug dealers launder cash by converting it into gold and silver they stashed in their boxes. Zellhart was tasked with spelling out the government's case in an affidavit that took her more than 6 months to write. Prosecutors submitted to Kim in a request for 6 warrants. So it goes on here, and it talks about the C's. The problem with this is that essentially it has put everybody, all the box holders, assumes that they're all criminals. But likely many of them would not have known that it was a criminal enterprise. In fact, probably the vast majority of them. The Fourth Amendment protects people against unreasonable searches and seizures. It requires the government to get a warrant by showing in a sworn statement that has probable cause to believe that a particular place needs to be searched and describing specific people or things to be seized. Here you can see an FBI agent suspects the content of the safe deposit box and shows the coins inside there. So very interesting. And the FBI's evidence against customers was thin. And that's the bottom line here, folks. It's pretty sad that they're just make this blanket, request and assume that everybody is a criminal. And so therefore, be careful out there, because at this point in time, we cannot trust our government because they are too lazy, or they want a sweeping, search of all the premises in order to just take whatever they get there. It just goes to show you, folks, that we cannot trust our government in an institution that we thought was above reproach at one point in time, at least for quite a while, now is not. Very sad indeed. So therefore, it's a good idea to store your silver and gold at home with, if you do have counterparty risk, make sure that other party is trustworthy. And if you have that luxury, amen, and good for you. But really, it's a good idea to store your gold and silver at home, and this is the best reason. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.